if you guys didn't hear this earlier, Manny Diaz was asked about the game. It was really, I think it was the play that broke him. I mean, the sequence that really broke him. Because, he had the look on his face, pretty demoralized on the sidelines the entire time. But this was one that had him freaking out against the referees because the Canes had failed to get score on a goal line. They got stuffed, and then subsequently went and gave up a 94-yard touchdown to Alabama after maybe they had a safety. Here's Manny.
Again, that's why I mentioned earlier. I mean, obviously there was already some separation on the scoreboard, but that was a hammer blow. I think it kind of got us off of our rocker for a little bit. I thought we finished the fourth quarter well, but there's a couple of bizarre things. You get the ball down to the 1 yard line. We're trying to go fast. We're trying to just wedge it in there, and the pacing of setting the ball, and it slows us down. I mean, that's the whole point is to try to catch them, not ready, get in there and jam it in. And there's a couple of things that happen that that slow us down. And they make a great push and stop us, and then I've got to see a good replay, I guess. But the quarterback, I suppose, was outside the pocket. I mean, that's a tough one. The touchdown itself was an outstanding play. We were in man coverage with outside leverage, and they fake crossers, put a foot in the ground, and came back across the field. That takes a lot of great protection, and then they threw it to a guy that was just a great addition to their team. That obviously his speed is legit. That guy can run, and if it was 94 yards or wherever the ball was, we were going to have a hard time catching him. So it was good execution against man coverage and a down that we were going to play man to try and get off the field on 3rd and 4, 3, whatever it was. So
I mean, we were going to have a hard time catching them. Honestly, even when you caught them, it didn't matter because you were just bouncing off of off of all of their players too. Like not like, oh, we got him. No, we don't. No, bouncing off. I didn't even notice the first time that we played that too. Was he complaining about the time the referees were setting the ball too?
Yeah, he was.
Man,
he said that weighed into the reason why they couldn't get 12 inches.
Yeah, that's a rough look, dude. That's what he does, though, man. I don't know, like he can't help himself when it comes to that type of stuff. Like if you serve it up on a place, like, they really, we really didn't have the element of surprise with Alabama because they were so slow in setting up the football and setting the football. It's like, all right, man. Look, I you know what it is? It's like I look at him, right, and I want to like him. I loved the oozing, dripping swag, and then you hear things like that, and you're just like, man, this dude is just so not big time. He's so looking for the little wins in just a complete ass kicking that he's like, we didn't have that element of surprise. And again, look, I'm not saying the referees had a perfect game. They didn't. There were some bad moments for sure. But was it like 10% the reason the Hurricanes got beat the way they did? Nah, maybe like 3%. We could go into say, hey, they kind of maybe missed a call there. Were they a little bit squeamish on the targeting call? Were they a little bit off on the defensive holding here? All right. We can nitpick little spots of the game here and there. Ultimately, this just comes down to a huge talent discrepancy, and really, it really has to be the truth to say this, a huge coaching discrepancy. It's not even close. And by the way, I think we probably went into this week very excited about at least the offensive side, about both sides of the coaching tree in this, because you liked when Manny Diaz ran the defense and the fact that he was coordinator for this team and where this team was when he was calling the defense. So you liked the fact that he was taking the reins over. We certainly were all very high on Rhett Lashley. But I mean, come on, dude. Some of the calls and what are we doing to blame? We're talking about how the referees were setting up the football, how long it took them. We didn't have the element of surprise, dude. You could have been playing peekaboo with Alabama, and they're still kicking your ass like that. That's what it feels like.
Someone told me this, so I didn't hear it directly. I could be wrong. Maybe you have more information on it. Did Manny Diaz say we only gave up 147 yards rushing? Is that like something that he was quoted as saying? Because, your point that he tries to find, these small positives or small excuses as to why it happened.
Yeah, we should start calling him Moral Victory Manny. That's what he's become.
Exactly. I don't need moral victories after a 30-something point national television.
Yeah, they gave up 147 yards rushing, which I guess you could put as a moral victory, except the fact that you gave up 344 yards passing to a guy who's never played college football before.
Is he really good though? I felt like he did some things where I was like, okay, this guy's pretty good. Like, I know we played bad, but he's pretty good.
I'm sure he's good. He plays for Alabama. I'm sure he's good. They don't allow bums there. If you're a bum, they kick you to the curb. They're like, what? Transfer portal. Oh, he's a former Alabama guy. We should get him. He's in the transfer portal. They kicked him there.
True. Even Jalen Hurts was in the transfer portal, and he was pretty good. But, man.
Terrible. De'Ara King, really just couldn't get anything going. There's just not a lot of good to take out of this one, man. There's not, Borregales looks like their family tree is good at kicking.
Really good.
All of them. Shout out. Lou Headley still can boot it.
Solid special teams. Really good.
Really good. I mean, as far as the kicking game, Flores always likes to mention offense, defense, and the kicking game. Kicking game, all right, no complaints. No complaints about the kicking game. But Manny Diaz is just like, it really does get irritating hearing some of these explanations from him. I couldn't imagine being at a watch party for something like that. That's just got to be so brutal.
And you got to stay there. Like, you're not attending it, you're hosting it.
I think the last time I did something, I'm trying to think of like the memorable watch parties that I've gone to where it's really, really sucked. I remember going to a Heat Road rally. I think it was Game 6, 2014 against the Pacers, and the Pacers ended up surprisingly beating the Heat, and they won pretty handily, and it was kind of a depressing road rally to go to, but you still, like, even then, you knew, like, Game 7, like, he's not going to lose Game 7. Come on, bro. And so it wasn't even in that element of what this was. I couldn't even imagine having to be around strangers in something like that. I couldn't imagine going. Like, the Canes fans who went to that game and you drove to Atlanta or you flew to Atlanta, and I saw some of the party. It was awesome. You saw, like, Michael Irvin's there, and he's firing up the Canes fans, and they're all there for the Cane Walk and all that type of stuff. And then you just go there, and there's just no hope in that stadium the entire time. It just has to be such a miserable experience. Maybe the drinking and the camaraderie helps ease some of that pain. But I think I just want to be alone at a point like that. Just leave me alone. I don't want to be around anybody. I don't want to talk to anybody. I just want to bask in my misery by myself. No, and then we do something like today where we can all just kind of be in it together and think about how miserable we all were on Saturday. But in that moment, terrible. You guys can text the show at 786-360-0790. Text on the ticket are driven by Kendall Toyota and West Keller Toyota. A texter writes, have we seen any coaching progression from Manny Diaz? Listen, nothing that I could figure offhand. I mean, they were better than they were his first year. His first year was a colossal failure. His first year with the losses to FIU, the shutout to La Tech, all those, that was a horrendous run in his first season. Definitely were better last year. They also had some really, really epic losses, North Carolina being the one that stands out the most. I think the thing that probably I was surprised with was maybe how reserved he was going into this season. He seemed like a guy who was he wasn't exactly thumping his chest going into this game. I think the thing that always just disappoints me about him is just like, it is like the small things like the referee. Like, it's like he can't help himself. If he's given an inch with a place to go somewhere else that's just not on the field, he'll go that direction. And I get it. Look, it's the first game of the season. He's still got to keep a good face together for his team and know that in the scheme of things, there's not a loss that probably means less than losing to the number one team in the country the first week. Like, if you're going to lose a game and you're going to get kicked in the teeth like that, that's the team to do it against. You lose to the number one team in the country on a neutral site, and it really should have no ramifications on the Canes season. I guess it's just the question of, okay, where do you think this is going to go? And they got it feels like they got a lot of catching up to do as far as just restoring the faith in everybody. Because losing to Alabama, there's no shame in that. They're the number one program in the country. They're the national champions. They have been dominating college football for the better part of a decade and a half now. This is what they do. But what you want to do is show in some ways your team has some fight, has some thing that you could hold on to out of that game and say, hey, at least we got this going forward. And I really don't feel like you have that. I don't really feel like there was any of those moments for the Canes in this game. And whether it be the lack of guts from the coaching, whether it be the lack of talent that was shown to be very clear, the lack of discipline, and really seemingly it looked like the lack of coaching cool that was kept from Manny Diaz in adverse situations, none of it gives you a lot of faith that he's going to turn this into an elite program ever again. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe we'll be sitting here and the Canes will be ACC champions by the end of this thing. But
does that save his job, in your opinion?
I don't think he's on the hot seat right now. Not yet. I think this is the thing that happens for him, okay? I thought when Manny Diaz was in his first year and you lose to FIU, I think that's a fireable offense right off the gate. When you have the little brother program that's in your market and you lose to them and they're printing T-shirts that say the University of Coral Gables, to be the head coach of that team is a fireable offense. They didn't. They kept him around. Okay, they had good building all of the next year. They went and got a tremendous quarterback in De'Aaron King. We feel like he got himself a really good offensive coordinator in Rhett Lashley. Cool. They took a step forward last year. They did. You got to give credit. But what happens is if, okay, you lose to Alabama, you get absolutely embarrassed. Okay, it's their part of the resume. These are not things that have gotten him fired yet, but I think when that loss does come, Marcos, you're going to look back on this and say, hey, the Canes got whooped up by, make it NC State by 2 touchdowns at home or something like that. Then you're going to look back to, oh yeah, and they also got absolutely demolished by Alabama. Looked unprepared, unqualified, uncoached for that game. They also lost to FIU a couple years back with him as head coach. They also got shut out by La Tech. So all of those things I just think add up. I don't think any of them right now have him on the hot seat, have him anywhere close to being fired, but they're stored away. They are stored away, and eventually something will come. It's like what happened with Al Golden. Like, you have certain things where, okay, we can look back and Al Golden had to deal with the cloud, and he had to deal with all the sanctions that maybe were going to come, and okay, that wasn't the best performance in a bowl game, and okay, we're going to self-sanction here, and we're not going to do a bowl game this year. But eventually, you lose 60-0 to Clemson, and that's it. And that's all she wrote. And eventually, you'll have enough boosters who are like, I'm done with this dude. I'm done. I'm done with having him as my head coach. So while I don't think this game will or really should have any meaningful ramifications for what his job status is, it still happened. It's still on the resume, and people will remember it. Just like they will losing to FIU, just like they will giving up 600 yards rushing to UNC, just like they will when it comes to the La Tech loss. All those things, they're just kind of money in the bank for whenever the big one does happen, that stuff's going to add on top of it. You're going to be like, okay, we lost this embarrassing game, this unacceptable time. We looked outclassed. We're always going to harken back to, and also look at these other steps. That's what I think it is. And Sir John says that Al Golden did have to deal with the track around the Duke field. He did have to deal with that. I mean, you also had the long walk for I think that was Randy Shannon who did that. Al Golden was upset too many night games. That was an Al Golden special. Too many night games. We've had some doozy excuses from the Canes head coaches down here. Had some doozy ones.
It was windy. I remember that one.
I don't remember specifically windy, but I do remember, too many primetime games. Can't really get the team on schedule the right way. What? Who doesn't want to play in primetime games? What are we talking about here? It's the silliest thing. The silliest thing. Platinum Source says, we need to rope off the state of Miami again for recruiting. Bama had more Florida players than we did. I don't know if that's statistically true, but the damage is done in my mind in that one, Platinum. I don't know. First of all, here's the thing. It's not a secret anymore. The damage is done. There's no secret anymore about the state of Alabama. People know. They know that this is the best crop of talent in the country down here. They do. It's not a secret anymore. And where do these kids want to go? They want to go where all the stars are going. That's it. And that's what I was saying. I started off the show talking about this, that you would look at this program and you would look at the number of names that came out of here, whether it be the guys from the 90s or it be the guys from the early 2000s. And this was the place to be. And it's squandered. And so you look at that sideline on Saturday and you see Ed Reed, Michael Irvin, Calais Campbell. These are all great players. They're all legends. And I love it. I would love it. I love having these guys around the program. But they're all old. They're old. The Canes greats, they're all into broadcast. Greg Olson going into broadcast. John Vilma's broadcasting now. And then you look at the Alabama sidelines, they're all dudes who got picked last year or the year before that. That's the difference right now. If you were to gather the best Canes of the last 10 years in the NFL, Denzel Perryman, who we bring into the dance? Jimmy Graham, who had a cup of coffee with the Canes. He was a basketball player.
Njoku, who didn't really play that much last year.
Njoku hasn't been a good NFL player. He hasn't.
Maybe Lamar Miller, if we're going, 10, 15 years back.
And Lamar Miller, he's a fine player. He's okay. He's not Derrick Henry. So that is the thing that's sad about it, is that, okay, you could talk about State of Miami and all these old school things don't work anymore, man. They don't. You're not going to rope off the kids. You're not going to keep them from going to Alabama for some honor code because, come in and help the Canes win. They haven't ever. If you have a kid who's 18 years old, not even 16, 17 years old, they don't know life as the Canes good. It doesn't exist. It doesn't compute with them. That is ancient history. It's not a thing anymore. And yes, to me, that's almost sadder than just losing the game itself. It's just that you got this realization that, yeah, you knew Alabama was good, but not only are they good, they took everything from you. Everything that you had in the early 2000s, everything that Nick Saban left Miami, the Dolphins, for as a coward. He took that cowardice and turned it into a factory that has ruined college football. I'll say it. He ruined the sport.
But maybe we got it all wrong, man. Maybe this whole time we've been painting Nick Saban wrong. And maybe he wasn't a coward necessarily, and he was actually a secret spy. And he's secretly this whole time been setting us up so that we can draft Tua and Jalen Waddle and get all the Alabama
I'm going to tell you right now, they better.
Yeah, for sure.
They owe so much feel good to Miami. Those two better ball out on Sunday. All right? That'll just give a little harbor of good. Like a little harbor seal. Make me feel better.
It's good.
Thank you.
It's a good seal.
I've been working on it.
You got a lot of good impressions.
I've been working on it. It's so weird. I don't know, man. I
don't even know where to go from here, man.
It's just a bummer. It's a bummer to come in on a Monday and do shows like this when you just get drubbed. Texter writes in, Nato, the difference is they have NFL coaches just like the Canes did. No one wants to be coached by Manny Diaz. He sucks. Yeah, maybe. This is going back further than Manny, though, man. I'm not just talking about the Manny Diaz era. I'm going back, 4 coaches now since Randy took over. And, Larry was kind of an oaf. So,
yeah.
Mark Richt seemed like he had, look, Mark Richt, his biggest flaw seemed to be, his playbook was a little bit antiquated. And
his loyalty to his son.
His loyalty to his son was a big one, too. Which, I can respect that.
Yeah,
I can respect having loyalty to your kids.
Absolutely.
That's a big one. And plus, he gave money back. He didn't try and take the Canes up for anything.
That's a stand-up
Mark
guy.
Richt was a real one. He was a real one. And maybe it ended up, it might have ended up being better for him anyway once you see all the health things that he's been dealing with. So maybe it ended up working out for the best that he didn't end up continuing to coach because, he had the heart attack. Now he's unfortunately dealing with the Parkinson's thing. So you hope, because Mark Richt was, the most credibility this program has had as a coach. And that guy coached a big-time program in Georgia. Yeah, they never won the big one, but he always had them in solid contention and always was churning out big-time pros.
The success that he created with them allowed them to continue to recruit and build a team to where now they're looking at, possibly the most formidable opponent against Alabama this year in Georgia.
What a day. What a day Saturday was.
Did you have any inkling of I'm going to call out on Monday? I'm not going to go in.
Nah, I don't do that. I'm going to come in. I definitely felt I felt a little bit of that when I drove into the parking lot today and nobody was here.
I only saw your car.
All I saw was the Light FM van. Yeah, and when I saw that, I was like,
not even security. Where
not even security. Our gates were open. No, I had a little bit of an inkling of that when that happened. I was like, maybe I should. Would anybody have known if I didn't come in today? But listen, people, not everybody has off. People are texting like crazy. The Twitch is going nuts. So people are listening. And so, it's probably good that we were here. But did I have a little feeling of that today at 5 a.m. when I got into the parking lot? Teensy-weensy.